Hello and welcome to Mulch, with me your host Rebecca Anning-Brown. This is a weekly podcast for flower farmers who want to build a confident flower farming practice that reflects the lifestyle that you want now and in the future. Each week I'll share conversation and tips to nurture and grow you and your flower farm. I'll open conversations that flower farmers find difficult to talk about, provide approaches that will help you to make decisions, chuckle at the idiosyncrasies of our work, and always be real and honest about my own work as a flower farmer. My goal is to help you to grow a curious, confident and grounded flower farming practice that flourishes as a business that you love and are proud to shout about. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you like what you hear, please do leave a review and share the podcast with your flower farming friends. It really does help to grow a confident and successful flower farming community. Hello everyone and welcome back to Mulch. It is, I think, episode 15, maybe 14. And we are in April, so the second week in April. I took an unplanned break last week from the podcast. School holidays, having Antony home, some serious field work to catch up on, a few household germs. I just decided that it was time to prioritise family first. And so that, in addition to just a personal need to step away from social media for a week, made me decide to just take a week's break. I was starting to feel a bit distracted and not worried, but just like observing social media was taking my attention away from our plan here at Silver Grey Foliage for the year. So I took a piece of my own medicine and stepped away from everything to recalibrate, and it feels good. I highly recommend it if it's not something that you've tried before. So, a belated happy Easter to you all. I hope that you have taken some moments to enjoy all signs of new life and possibly some chocolate too. Our season here in Leeds has very much so started, and it feels like it's starting to ramp up. Every time we get a flash of sunlight, we get more and more flowers, which is super exciting. And the bulbs and the corms and bits of foliage and perennials too are starting to really kind of ramp into gear, which is exciting. Weather-wise, it's a little bit stormy. We seem to be getting plenty of rain still, though it is slowing down. I really hope that the weather wherever you are is being a bit kinder, because I know that we all desperately need just a little bit of a break. So in today's episode, I thought I would run through a review of our first quarter here at Silver Grey Foliage. Initially I thought that was quite a self-indulgent thing to do, but actually it's a practice that we would do anyway, whether or not I shared it with you. I'm not going to share it all, but anyone who knows me will know that I like to reflect and learn both from the things that have gone well and the things that definitely need some tweaking for the rest of the season and for future years. So doing this once a quarter is probably the minimum for us, but in reality I probably reflect and have those thoughts on a weekly and definitely monthly basis. So I thought I'd share the top lines and a bit more information about parts of it. Why? Well, partly because I know that we are all curious about other people's flower farming practice. I mean, when I say curious, that's probably a more acceptable word for nosy, but the same is true. Also, I find it really helpful to hear about the things that other flower farmers are learning from, and that's distinct from hearing about what's going on in their everyday life, because there is a difference. The things that are going on in your everyday flower farming practice Often are the things that show up on social media, from seed sowing to cutting, flowers that are available, and so on and so forth. But behind all of that, there's process and thinking and planning. And all of that is what helps to drive and motivate your business. So those are the parts that I'm curious about, nosy about. And finally, my other reason for sharing with you is because apart from the challenges of weather, tulip fire, supplier issues, and the occasional kind of frustrated rant about the industry, I find that as flower farmers, we don't talk much about the stuff that isn't necessarily going according to plan, like the stuff that's gone wrong. And because that is where the most learning is, in my view, I'm going to share good stuff and also stuff that's not so great that we need to deal with, in the hope that it helps you. So at the end, I have just reviewed the prompts that I used to do this sort of review. And I hope that it's a practice that you might consider doing, or that will be helpful to guide and shape any reviews that you're already doing. And remember, please, remember that these are prompts. They are not sticks to beat yourself with. Please. These are prompts to help you reflect and learn. They are not sticks to beat yourself with and say, well, I could have done that better and I should have done this better, or I really should have learned that mistake last year. Those sorts of approaches to reflection aren't helpful. They're not going to move you forward. They make you feel guilty. They make you feel like you're not doing a good enough job. And that's not true. It's just the reality of fact that as you grow a business, and especially one that relies on nature and nurture, there are things that you'll learn along the way, things that will change, things that will improve, and actually things that when you tweak them will go even worse. And that's just life. Okay, so I start my review by making a list of all the things that have happened in the quarter. So this is a practice that I picked up from Sophie Cliff at the back end of last year. The reason that I like doing it is because the list of things that have happened, even in a week, is always longer than you will expect. And it gives you an understanding and insight into why bedtime gets earlier and earlier. And it also gives a sense of perspective when you start to think about all the things that you haven't done. Because that's the list of things that we think about. But when we flip that and look at the list of what we have done, it explains why you haven't got round to doing A, B, or C already. And just allows you a bit of space and a bit of grace, which I think is really important. So our list is long. I am not going to run through all of it, but I am going to give you some of the main headers because I think they provide some structure to the 3 months that have passed already in 2024. It really does feel like they're flying past. So I like to make those marks in the sand of what we have achieved, because it really reminds me that even though the first quarter of the year is the quietest for us, we've still got a lot done. So, top of my list is mulch. I started this podcast and Antony has become my editor-in-chief. I've never done a podcast, he's never edited, and it has been an enormous learning curve. But we're both enjoying it, and we know that you are too. So thank you for listening, for encouraging us, for providing feedback, for subscribing wherever you listen, for rating and doing all those things. Please keep doing them. They let us know that you're listening. What else has happened? So in January, Antony and I ran our first courses for flower farmers on business planning, pricing, marketing. That was super exciting. It's a big step, moving from just doing the do to sharing the doing the do and our methods. But both of us have done an awful lot of teaching and training and supporting in our other worlds. And so it feels really natural to grow that practice as part of Silver Grey Foliage. Oh, the next one's a biggie. We have made an HR plan. I mean, how nuts is that? And shared a contract with our first proper employee. This is big, like terrifying, but super important to us being able to achieve our hopes and dreams. Like it's super, super scary because having an employee is an enormous responsibility, but it's done now. And so from May, that will move into action. Yes, okay, from May that will move into action. You can hear the terrifiedness, is that a word, in my voice. But anyway, let's move on. We have weeded and mulched the majority of the field and created new beds. We have kept up, give or take, with our propagating plan for the first quarter. We have reinforced the pest fencing around the boundaries and the perimeter. We've done some basic setting of habits and trends for the year. And by that I mean watering, feeding, cleaning, admin, and set some regular rhythms, which helps us to make sure that we do those basics well. And when you do those basics well, it really helps to grow quality stems, which is what we're after. The next thing that I like to do is to try and look at the things that have gone well. So naturally, I'm quite a glass half full person. The reason I say that is because all of my other jobs, training, professions have required me to troubleshoot, to anticipate problems, to look for the things that aren't going well in order to prevent deterioration and to help either patients or clients to improve and get a better outcome. So naturally, my instinct is to look for the stuff that's going wrong. The reason that I like to look for the things that are going well is because if we don't acknowledge the good stuff, it becomes quite a drudgery or a difficult process to keep going on thinking, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really keen for you to see this process of reflection and review as one of learning rather than as a stick to beat yourself with. It's really important that you consider carefully how you phrase things so that you are encouraging yourself and just congratulating yourself and celebrating the wins, no matter how small they are. So the things that I think have gone well for us, and in particular in comparison to previous years, is seedling care. So again, that habit of watering, feeding, checking has led to better quality seedlings and less or fewer losses. And I think that's the thing that's most noticeable. We've got fewer losses in the greenhouse and in the tunnel. I am really pleased that we have been more consistently present on social media. I know I've referred to social media a lot in this episode, but actually I quite enjoy it. I really enjoy showing up. I enjoy sharing what's going on, sharing a view, and I personally find social media to be a place where I have genuinely made new friends. The episode that expresses an ounce of caution about that is somewhere in the archives. You can go and find it. because the kind of scrolling trance that can happen is less healthy, and that's what I try to avoid the most. Not getting distracted when I go to the field is also something that I'm really pleased by. So the intention has been to plan before I go to the field what I'm going to do, or what Antony's going to do, or what the children are going to do, or what Gemma's going to do, so that when we arrive, that's what we get done. And I will have thought about that, or we will have thought about that in terms of who will be present, or what's the most effective and efficient things to be doing, or which bits of the field need the most attention, and so on. So it's made the process of arriving and cracking on simpler. There's less faff. I don't like faff. The final thing that I'm going to put on this list here from our collection is about me. So your business, my business, requires me to be well. And that is something that I learned the hard way last year. And when you're not well for whatever reason, that ability to run, grow, show your business just isn't there. It's not as good, and it doesn't feel as good. And so I am really pleased that I and Antony have maintained a good self-care plan. So for me, that's been yoga, meditation, cooking more, time with Antony and the children, eating well, sleeping well, and making sure that there is some time, some family time, working together or doing something together that isn't related to Silver Grey Foliage. And whether that's a walk or a film or cooking together, which has been really fun actually. It doesn't matter what it is, but those things have really helped to lift my positivity, to lift my spirits, to keep me well. And I notice in every day the benefits of that. So I'm really pleased with that practice. All right, inevitably, I have to look at the things that have not gone so well. It's obviously something that I found quite easy to do. Picking holes in our practice, as I've already explained, is something that I'm naturally gifted at, and I'm not sure that this is how I should put it. Turned again on its head when I'm mentoring and tutoring people, I think that the powers of observation that lead to that anticipation and correction before things go wrong is a really helpful skill to have, and that's definitely something that I've acquired from my medical and medico-legal practice. That ability to observe and to listen and to really get to the nub, to the root of what the problem is, and then to help people work through it, is something that I think is a really good skill. However, when it comes to beating myself with a little stick, it can be less positive. So there's no stick beating here, but there are some clear observations of our practice and things that either need to change or we have started changing already. So, number one on the list is our website. So some of you will know that we have had a new website built. It looks stunning. It's really brilliantly crafted. I love it, but I haven't completed the content, the text within it, which means that it's not live. And that is both a waste of money, and also it means that the service that we offer to you, our customers, whether you're a flower farmer or a florist, is hindered slightly because the way that the new website is shaped is really designed to be of benefit to you. It's not designed for us to be able to say, hey, look at our shiny website. It's to make it easier for you to access the support and services that we have to offer. So the learning is that it's a bigger job than I expected. the learning is also that because I find writing challenging and have done for a couple of years, I really need to break it down into smaller chunks. So anybody who's listened to the podcast from the start will know that one of the reasons that I'm doing the podcast is because I used to write long letters that I know people used to sit with on a Sunday morning with a mug of tea and read religiously and then reply and send me feedback. And I loved it. But I just can't write like that at the moment. And so we did a bit of trial and error last year and realised that the one thing that I still can do is speak. I enjoy talking. And so with a bit of structure and planning and editing of what I guess on TV they call the bleepers or the bloopers or whatever it is, the podcast is a way of sharing that works for me. But writing, and the website requires me to write, is definitely more challenging. Those small bite-sized chunks we've started to set up, and within hopefully the next 3 to 4 weeks, it'll be done. Fingers crossed. Wish us luck. Send me coffee and biscuits and chocolate to help the process. Don't send me wine. That will not help the process. Okay, moving on. Number 2 is a problem that really started last year, and we thought we had taken care of it. So last year, we had new visitors to the field, we had rabbits, we also had deer, but they're less traumatic, interestingly. But the rabbits have been problematic. Either they eat stuff, or they burrow at things and dig it up and then leave it half planted, which is really irritating. They're just disruptive. And essentially we took steps, probably not quickly enough. The steps that we took were to trench chicken wire and to do that all the way around our acre of site. And it appeared to be doing a reasonable job, but there was still evidence of rabbit trouble. So we added further chicken wire fencing by laying it flat and up the sides of our field. And Farmer Paul reassured us that we'd done a brilliant job. We did find the occasional hole coming in from the bank. We've kind of filled those with rocks or dealt with them. And then, whilst weeding a week or so ago, we found burrows in the field. Problem number 2 is it just made my heart sink. Obviously, the children on the school holidays felt that this was hilarious. The learning is that if you find pests that are problematic, you need to deal with them quickly. Now, depending on the pest, depends on how you deal with it. So I would love to be able to invite foxes in as predators. I would love to have a dog so that it would deter rabbits. All of these things are things that we consider, but just making that final plan, other than growing lots of really stinky scented stuff that rabbits don't like, is one that we're working on at the moment. There you go. There is a big something that's not so great. And then the third one, really is a knock-on from the first comment that I shared. So our website isn't completed, which means that our visibility and availability to you as flower farmers in terms of mentoring, in terms of our florists and our flower and foliage availability is less than I would like it to be. I think in reality, the learning from that is that sometimes, more often in fact, we need to accept that done and good enough for now we'll have to do whilst we work on the better option, which is almost there. We're working on it. It's almost there. And that's the thing about perfectionism. Perfectionism on our flower farm, we absolutely know isn't a thing. There will always be weeds. There will always be paths that aren't clear. There will always be things in the compost heap that could have been shredded more. And the list is endless of things that there will always be that are less than perfect. And some of that Antony and I need to learn to apply to our wider flower farming business. And that is, it's learning. And it's learning to identify that is actually something that we have to do. Okay. There is no way on earth that anyone can do a review of their business at any point in the year and not think about the M word, money. I am running a flower farm so that I can earn money. Money is not something that we like to talk about as flower farmers, so I'm going to say it lots in this episode. Money, 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 money. It's a controversial topic to discuss in the open, but as a business, it's important. So I'm not going to share figures. I don't think this is the forum for doing that, but I am going to share percentages because I think they give an indication of our overall progress. So at the end of quarter one of this year, so that's January to March, our income has been 5% of our target earnings for the year. 5%. So it's not massive, but it is also our quietest quarter of the year. So I'm pleased with that. Like 5%, when I would suggest we haven't been that busy until the past kind of week or so, is all right. I'm not sure our accountant would agree that that's sufficient, but that is a conversation for another day. I think more importantly for us, I can see when we look at the kind of cash flow indications that we have had an increased income this year in comparison to last year. And we're being quite stringent about assessing our income and expenditure. Now, we do use QuickBooks to do invoicing, to do our accounts, but the system that we're using in terms of cash flow on a weekly basis is actually paper-based. And the reason it's paper-based is because it's much more meaningful. When you have to write out the numbers and do the sums with a calculator, it really does make you accountable and more aware of what's going in and out, rather than just looking at a pretty graph or the numbers on the screen. It really makes you think about what you're spending and acknowledge what's coming in and assess whether it could have been more or whether actually you're quite pleased with it. All right, that's money. I'm going to leave it there. But please, please, please do think about the pennies, because unless you're a millionaire, they're kind of important. Without pennies, I can't buy more plants, which obviously is my ultimate goal in life, to be able to buy more plants. Right, so I always finish our quarterly review by thinking about what I'm most looking forward to in the next quarter. So I'm looking forward to firming up the plans for the next Flower Farmers Planner. I'm looking forward to finishing and shaping our plans for supporting flower farmers over the next year or so. Antony and I have thought really carefully about that and about how we would like to work with you. I am literally the most excited about all the flowers that we already have and that are to come. I mean, it makes me so giddy just every day. Especially we had a flash of sunshine at the weekend, hurrah! And more tulips opened, and it's in part surprising because not all of them are the tulips that I ordered, and it's also just exciting to see the colours and the blooms pop. I love it. So there you go, a review of the action at Silver Grey Foliage in the first quarter of 2024. If it's not something that you've done before, why why not have a go at some of those questions? Sit yourself down with a cup of tea or coffee, not a glass of wine. You can have the glass of wine as a reward at the end, but sit yourself down with a cup of tea, coffee, chocolate, cake, bread, whatever, cheese, your weakness is, and do a recap. So the questions, broadly speaking, are: firstly, make a list of all the things that have happened in the quarter. And I do mean everything, kind of business and kind of personal life too. Secondly, make a note of all the things that have gone well. And I mean it, all the things that have gone well, because there will be plenty. I want them phrased in the positive, please. Thirdly, and remember, this is not an opportunity to beat yourself with a stick. This is an opportunity to learn. So, thirdly, identify the things that haven't gone well, the things that aren't so great, and think about the steps that you can take to learn and improve from them immediately if required, or over the next year if it's something for next season. Next, do an honest breakdown of the numbers. Like, you can hear me getting quieter as I say it. Honestly, do an honest breakdown of the numbers. On paper, ideally. It's the first quarter of the year. Never be disheartened. Always be delighted with anything that's come in at a time of the year for flower farmers when, frankly, not much is happening. And then make a list of the things that you're looking forward to, that you're excited about in your season to come and in your flower farming business. I say it all the time, if you don't enjoy what you're doing in a business that you're running, that's your own, it's time to rethink. It's time to question whether this is what you should be doing. So those things to be excited about, those things that you're looking forward to, are absolutely essential for you and for me when we look at our reviews, our weekly, monthly, quarterly reviews. Okay, that's enough for me for 1 week. As ever, I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and if you have, please subscribe wherever you're listening and rate the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. It's always welcome. You can pop it in a review or comment. You can send me an email. You can drop me a message on Instagram, or you could put it in your stories on Instagram and share it with the world. That would also make me very happy. Thank you. I will be back next week with another episode of Mulch, talking about something specifically related to the practice of flower farming, and I look forward to speaking with you then. Rebecca.
Thank you for listening to Mulch. I hope that you found it useful. To find the show notes, head back to our website where you'll find links to all the things that I've been talking about in today's episode. If you're on Instagram, you can find us at Silver Grey Foliage. I would appreciate it so much if you were able to share this episode in your Instagram stories. And if you are able to leave a review, it really will help more people to get on and grow. I'll be back with you next Monday to talk about more flower farming in practice. Rebecca.